What if Russia joined the European Union? Imagine waking up one morning to shocking news. Russia has joined the European Union, not as a partner, not as an observer, but as a full member. The largest country on Earth suddenly becomes part of Europe's political and economic system. Moscow connected directly to Brussels. Russian borders open to the European market. European laws expanding across 11 time zones. And if this ever happened, it could completely reshape global politics forever. Because Russia joining the European Union would create something the world has never seen before. A supercontinent stretching from Lisbon to Vladivostok. One giant economic and geopolitical bloc connecting Europe and Asia. But would this create the strongest alliance in history? Or the most unstable union ever built? The largest expansion in human history? If Russia joined the European Union, the EU would instantly become the largest political bloc on Earth. Its territory would stretch across nearly the entire Eurasian continent, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. The European Union would gain enormous natural resources: Russian oil, natural gas, rare minerals, massive forests, Arctic shipping routes, and some of the largest energy reserves on Earth. Economically, the impact could be enormous. Europe's industries would gain direct access to Russian resources. Germany's factories, French energy companies, Italian manufacturing, all connected to Russia's raw materials and energy infrastructure. Supporters would call it the birth of a new Eurasian superpower, a bloc powerful enough to rival both the United States and China. But geography would become one of the biggest challenges. How do you govern a political union that spans 11 time zones? How do you connect Western Europe with Siberia and the Far East? The scale alone would be almost impossible to manage. NATO, America, and China. Now imagine how the rest of the world would react, especially the United States. For decades, NATO was built around the idea of defending Europe from Russian influence. But now, imagine Russia sitting inside the European Union itself. The entire balance of power inside NATO would collapse overnight. Some people would argue that NATO would no longer make sense. Others would fear that Europe was becoming too powerful and too independent from Washington. For the first time since the Cold War, America could face a united Eurasian bloc capable of challenging its global influence. And then there's China. China currently sees Russia as an important strategic partner. But if Moscow suddenly moved closer to Europe, Beijing could view this as a geopolitical disaster. China might fear losing access to Russian energy, military cooperation, and political support. A new geopolitical triangle could emerge: the United States, China, and a massive European-Russian superbloc, each competing for influence over trade, artificial intelligence, military power, and global resources. In many ways, the world could enter an entirely new Cold War. Europe's energy revolution. One of the biggest changes would happen in energy. Europe has struggled for years with energy dependence and rising costs. But Russia possesses some of the largest energy reserves on Earth. Gas pipelines connecting Russia directly to Europe could expand dramatically. Electricity prices across Europe could potentially fall. European industries could become more competitive globally. Factories could operate cheaper. Transportation costs could decrease. Energy security might improve. Supporters would claim this could transform Europe into the world's most powerful industrial economy. But critics would immediately raise another question. Would Europe become too dependent on Russia? Even inside the same political union, power struggles would still exist. Control over energy could become one of the most dangerous political weapons inside Europe itself. Open borders and migration. For ordinary people, daily life would change dramatically. Millions of Russians could suddenly gain free movement across Europe. working in Berlin, Paris, or Amsterdam could become much easier. At the same time, European companies could invest heavily inside Russia. New railways, new industries, new technology hubs, massive infrastructure projects could connect Europe and Russia more closely than ever before. But migration could become one of the most controversial issues. Western European countries might fear large population movements from poorer Russian regions. Housing systems could come under pressure. Labor markets could change rapidly. Political tensions inside Europe could explode. Some countries might support deeper integration. Others might strongly oppose it. And that could divide Europe internally. But the biggest problem might not be economic, or military, or even geographic. It could be political. The European Union already struggles to make decisions between countries with very different interests. Now, imagine adding Russia into that system. A nuclear superpower with enormous territory, military influence, and political ambitions. Who would dominate decision-making? Germany? France? Or Russia itself? Smaller European nations could fear losing influence completely. Eastern European countries might become deeply suspicious of Moscow's power inside the Union, and disagreements over democracy, censorship, security, and foreign policy could create constant political crises. Some analysts might even fear that the European Union would slowly stop functioning altogether, because managing such a massive and divided political system could become almost impossible. Could this actually happen? Today, the idea sounds almost impossible, especially after years of political conflict and growing tensions between Russia and Europe. But history changes faster than people expect. Just decades ago, many people believed Germany and France would remain permanent rivals. Now they are two of Europe's closest partners. Political systems evolve, alliances change, and global crises can force countries to rethink everything. Some experts believe that one day, Europe and Russia could slowly rebuild economic cooperation again. Others believe the division between them may last for generations. But one thing is certain. If Russia ever joined the European Union, the modern world order would change completely. A European Union that included Russia could become the largest and most resource-rich political bloc in human history. It could reshape global trade, energy, military power, and geopolitics. But at the same time, it could also become one of the most unstable political systems ever created. Because uniting economies is difficult. Uniting political systems is harder. But uniting nations with centuries of conflict, different identities, and competing ambitions could be almost impossible. And yet, if it ever happened, the world would never be the same again.